we are going to take some questions now from the audience. You can continue to submit questions or go on there and like certain questions that are already there. It moves it up into the queue. First one's, wow, got 63 likes already. How do you convince CEOs and top business officials of the importance of the mainframe? Somebody grab that.
Let me count the ways. Let's see. So I think there's a bunch of different ways, right? So, we can look backwards and we can look at, what percentage of their business and the transactions in the world run on Z today. And, I can tell you assuredly that if the mainframe goes down, there are economies that stop working, period, full stop. But that's also a bit of a looking backwards. I think if you look forwards, and certainly a big piece of what we've tried to do with this launch, and again, the full stack approach, is looking at the pervasive encryption piece and how important security is, but then also ensuring that Z is a part of a broader ecosystem, right? And Calista touched on this a bit, that you can leverage APIs to access Z just like you can any other system in the world, and you don't need Z-specific knowledge to be an application developer now and leverage what's on Z. Right? You don't need to have Z off in the corner and be the black box operationally, and everything else in the enterprise runs over here and leverages Elk or Splunk or pick your favorite operation monitoring system. We can now integrate those things together and make it look and act seamlessly, giving an end-to-end view of the enterprise, and ultimately being able to do everything you need to do, run what you need where it makes the most sense, versus a religious debate on platforms or whatever else that we've been through before. But I think ultimately, certainly the headline for us is around security and encryption without a doubt at this moment.
Cool. How is recovering at a DR site affected by pervasive encryption?
So I'll take that one. So the easy answer is it's not. The idea is when you implement pervasive encryption or turn on pervasive encryption, the data in both your primary site and your DR site will be encrypted. So that's goodness. And in order to be able to access the data from your DR site, there's two things that need to happen. One is we need to make sure that the crypto environment on the DR site gets set up just as it is on the primary site. And then second, we just need to make sure that the encryption keys, the key store is on a replicated volume so that it appears also on the DR site. And when you do those two things, you can bring up that DR environment and have full access to your data just as you do on your active site.
All right. What do you think is the greatest threat to IBM Z, and what is IBM doing to mitigate that?
So I'll tee it up, Calista. So what do you think about skills?
So I think it does come back to both looking at the workloads that we bring to Z. So it's IBM Z, the hardware piece in and of itself, is not an island. We do not exist without the broader community of collaboration. That collaboration happens with our clients. Collaboration happens with our ISV partners. Collaboration happens with system integrators. Across the spectrum, there needs to be that technical and business value. Within all of those organizations, you've got to have robust, modern skills to be able to leverage all of that, to be able to draft the blueprint to go forward for that organization. So as we lower the barriers, as we level the playing field by making things open and connected, we're able to enlist that and encourage the passion for the platform like never before. You don't need to go to extra training to leverage your open to leverage that open API.
I think the one thing that I'd add to that is, I think perception actually is probably one of our biggest risks for the platform, right? And we talk about it a lot, those who are inside the realm of Z. But hopefully you've also noticed with this launch that this was not what I'll say our traditional launch. Everything we've talked about, the technical side and all the reasons this was different, that's one thing. But also, as we approached the public launch of this was to ensure that we were bringing different perspectives, right? You saw Caleb Barlow, who leads our offerings on the security side, on CNBC talking about Z and pervasive encryption and security, and he's not a mainframe guy, right? He wasn't talking from a mainframe perspective solely. The IBM chief security officer was part of the launch events, talking about the broader security approach, right, and how Z fits into that, and how it fits really well and even better than other parts and pieces, right? The ecosystem approach that Callista's been talking about as well. So I think a big piece of the rationale for that was to try and address the perception, and it's a constant battle, right, for all of us, right, and all of you are also stewards of the platform as much as we are up here. But that's a battle that will persist, and we need to continue fighting over and over again, because technology, I lose absolutely no sleep over our technology and what we can do and the differentiation that we have on the platform.
All right, what software do I need to enable pervasive encryption?
So one of the, as we talked earlier, and Mike mentioned it, I mentioned it, we've taken a full stack view. The hardware, the Z14 hardware, is the enabler of this capability. But one of the great things about the way we've implemented this into the stack is, the basic capability for doing the encryption is built into the operating system. So there's no additional software that you need above and beyond ZOS or Linux to provide the basic capabilities. Now, of course, you can layer on top of that. We've also made enhancements to products like Z-Secure and QRadar to be able to report and monitor on that. So you have the ability of layering capabilities on top of that. But for the base capability, it's basically the operating systems themselves.
All right. Can IBM hire Richard as the MC to all their events with a hefty signing bonus? Well, that's interesting. Huh.
I don't think that message was
No, I don't think that. Let me go to the next one.
Did that get a vote?
Yeah, no votes. It got 0 votes. Does the Z14 encrypt non-IBM software and applications, for example, Oracle database?
So the Z14 itself the hardware can encrypt, is capable of encrypting anything that calls it, right? So one of the things that we did very early on with this pervasive encryption initiative that we're driving is we have a technical disclosure meeting that we go talk with our vendors and share with them, the technology we're delivering and where we're going. We actually started talking to them about this in the spring of 2016. So they were aware of our vision and our direction and where we were trying to go, and encouraged to follow along, if you will, and take advantage of what we were doing. That said, we can't control what any particular vendor does or does not do. Looking specifically at the example that was referenced there, Oracle, I think actually does software encryption and doesn't actually leverage the hardware. That's something we're actually looking at and engaging with Oracle to see how we can address that particular gap.
Okay. What steps can be taken, that's a good one, to lower the cost barrier to entry for students and hobbyists who want to learn about IBM Z and its OSs?
Well, I could take that.
Sure.
So we are actually developing a lot of virtual online courses that are free. We also have, if you could call it a sandbox, but our community cloud offerings to allow folks to come in and check things out for free. And then as you kind of get into the IBM's developer advocacy efforts, you can come in and test drive and try out some of these patterns, some of these use cases to try your hand. And none of this is at charge, so we encourage you to do that, to sign up, to come on board, and to begin to grow your own Z eminence, if you will. We do look for some of those new developer heroes that are emerging.
We've also added for Z developer and test as an example, right, that you can run Z on x86 for individuals to learn. We've added that for free. That's relatively recently, and then we also launched something called Z Trial, which is, again, the ability for an individual to go launch their own environment. We have a side-by-side real environment with step-by-step of how do you use ZOS Connect as one example, how do you use application discovery as another example. So I think more and more of this approach, we're trying to put more out there, have it be self-service, give people access to what they need and when they need it.
All right. With what appears to be a fresh emphasis on Z and ZOS, will we see more development resources allocated? For example, TSO and ISPF.
Is that from an IBMer? So I guess as the development guy up here, I'll take that one. So every day we are balancing resources across the portfolio. I will say that there are points in time where it may not make sense to continue to invest in something and leave it there. And it's not to say we kill it, but stabilize it, and then let's invest in other places, right? And certainly we've got tons of examples in this release where we've done just that. And if we would have continued only investing in the stuff that's been there forever and a day, then we wouldn't have necessarily had machine learning or all the pervasive encryption, or the list goes on and on and on. So for us, that's a portfolio decision. Again, it's business as usual. We do it on a day-to-day basis, and we'll continue to do it with our clients' input, right? And that's a huge piece of what we do, and a huge piece of the relationship with Share, obviously, is to get that input and leverage that as a part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. If you look at the design for the Z14 going back several years, we did this in partnership with over 150 customers around the world. So it's not like IBM built the machine, we built it together.
All right, didn't do it in a bubble.
Right.
Went outside, excellent. Will Z14 write data to disk with encryption, or is it encryption in memory only?
So I guess we'd have to look at each of the solutions, because there's a number of capabilities. Looking at ZOS, for example, one of the key technologies that we were introducing with ZOS is data set level encryption. So this is encryption embedded into DFSMS. And in that case, it's providing encryption of data as it's being written to disk. So it'll protect the data in disk. Another capability that we have is the ability of encrypting CF data, and that will encrypt the data in the coupling facility. So that's essentially encryption of data in memory. So you have to look at the specific areas to understand, where it's protecting the data.
Okay. Why is so much effort going into ZOS MF instead of enhancing ISPF?
So I guess I tap danced around this the first time. I may as well just go straight at it this time, right? So look, this ultimately comes back to skills, right? And we can argue, and certainly we've got examples of folks who can do things faster in ISPF and been doing things that way for a heck of a long time. But kids coming out of school are not looking for two colors on a screen and a whole bunch of command line interfaces, right? So a huge piece of the emphasis and why we're investing, and it's not just ZOSMF, right? You look at what we're doing around dynamic partition management as an example, look at what we're doing around DevOps as another example, right? Is to close this gap, technically try and close this gap between something that is completely unique, that takes a long time to get up to speed, that we've historically said, hey, congratulations, welcome to the team, here's a red book, go off over there and let me know when you have a question, right? To something that's a lot more intuitive, that they're used to the interface and what they can do. And as a result, that's why we've been investing, and again, and it's not just the OSMF, but across the board on things that, to those who've been at it for a fair amount of time, you may look at it and you go, what's the problem? It's not broken. But if we're going to address the skills and in turn the perception that I mentioned earlier, we've got to shift.
JES3, is it JES3 or?
JES3.
JES3, is that going to be discontinued?
Working on it.
Do. All right. How do I protect and back up my keys?
So in terms of protecting and backing up keys, from a protection perspective, you know, the way that we're leveraging the hardware of the Z14, so encryption keys stored on disk are protected with our Crypto Express coprocessor, so they're, you know, HSM protected. While they're in memory, we have an industry-unique capability called protected key CPACF that actually prevents the key material from being visible in clear form to either the operating system or the application. So that's our kind of our protection in making sure that the key doesn't get, you know, exposed or can't be, you know, accessed, you know, through a dump or something like that. In terms of, you know, backing up the key and making sure, you know, the concern there is, you know, we don't want to suffer a data loss as a result of losing an encryption key either inadvertently or maliciously. And there's multiple levels of protection we can provide there. You know, you can certainly have backup copies of the key store, both physical and logical, you know, backup copies. But ultimately, I would recommend, you know, using a key management system such as, you know, EKMF, Enterprise Key Management Facility, that you can, you know, essentially have offline, you know, copies and backups of the keys so that you can re-inject them into the system in the case that, you know, they are inadvertently, you know, deleted or modified.
All right, we have time for about one more question. How is IBM addressing the Z software vendor ecosystem to enable more small companies to enter the market?
That's a good question. So we are, you know, again, making our platform as open and connected as possible to enable as much self-serve as possible, to enable self-learning tools to come onto the platform and to try out the platform. We are also teaming together with both clients and universities to go and explore specific workloads together with those clients, and we've got you know, teams of folks as well as, you know, technical and you know, human resources that we can help apply to situations to help bring folks sort of over and through the challenges that they might be facing.
We also have a very active partner and development program that we're ratcheting up, and so we provide low-cost hardware and low-cost software to a number of vendors around the world. We're also reaching out and working with them on special pricing for workloads so that we and they can expand the opportunity, which at the end of the day is really what it's all about for both of us.
Okay, excellent. All the time we have. We are going to get some answers to more of the questions that were on the app, so stay tuned to that, some of the ones we didn't get to. Our distinguished panels, let's give them a nice round of applause, huh? Harry, come on up.
Because we share. Because we share.